All right, we have Amanda with us from Keep It Blue podcast. Amanda, you live in Brazil, so we started this project trying to hear from as many countries as we can in the world, and obviously Brazil is a very big place. So, how has COVID-19 impacted Brazil and also where you are in Brazil? So,
Hi, everyone. So my name is Amanda. I do indeed have the Keep It Blue podcast, which is a Brazilian podcast about the diplomatic entrance contest, where we get to learn much about the history of Brazil, its foreign politics, but also the world and many other people. Thank you for inviting me.
thank you.
And so let's talk about COVID. This very historical moment. Well, in Brazil, it's very different because of the size and the different realities, right? It's very different if you're living in the Amazon region or in the north to the south. So we have very different lifestyles, different cities, different organizations, different mentalities. It's like having different countries. Let's say it's more similar to the United States when you talk about the federal states, how do they organize? And Brazil is also known for having its warm climate in most of the country. So the COVID has impacted with its similarity to the flu. And here in South America, with the warm weather, we saw that it has greatly impacted as well.
Yeah, because Brazil was, I think it was, number 4 or something. It was one of the more affected nations in the world. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was one of the most affected for many reasons. The first one is that the COVID was known by December. So by January, February, we started to know more about the symptoms.
Right.
And we still had the carnival in 2020. Which was not a great start. We did have it, and it helped to spread a lot. And then we have a very big, let's say, Iberic cultural influence. So we like to touch people, to get to feel them, to get to know them. We live in many houses with many times with our families. We live with our parents until marriage. So there are always a lot of people. So which contributed to the result that is today.
Right. Yeah, Iberic. I know I've heard that word, and that means it's very close. Correct? Is that what Iberic means?
Iberic is the region of Portugal and Spain.
Oh, okay. And that's known as being a very kind of socially close community. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very socially close. A lot of parties, a lot of barbecues. I mean, you guys know what happens in Spain and Portugal.
Right.
So there are always people around, right? It's incredibly, very much social. And here with the warm weather, you can make barbecues every weekend. So this is the reality. Barbecues, parties, people live outside of the house.
Yes. Yeah.
At each time, and even the houses are do have many people from different generations. So it's normal in Brazil to live with your grandma, to live with your parents, to have your kids at home. Many multi-generational homes. So yeah. So it did help the spread of COVID.
Right.
Here.
Yeah, and you mentioned Carnival. When is Carnival in Brazil?
Well, actually, it's by the 16th of February. So it's this week.
Coming up.
Yeah. But well, this year we don't have it.
Right.
But it's mostly like that. Well, it's actually a very long holiday. So it's like Christmas time in the North America. So it starts in January. You start having weekend parties if you want to, if you're interested. Many different parties for different kinds of people. So if you like to not go to parties or not listen to Brazilian music, you can. If you like to go to street parties, you can. So yeah, it's a very long party. Well, we don't really work. And then after Carnival, work life starts in Brazil. So this is why school starts in March. end of
Okay.
February. So yeah.
Is Carnival, is it sort of like in Brazil, is it sort of like crop over in the Caribbean? I think in Trinidad it's called crop over, and they have all kinds of different festivities that were associated sort of to, I believe it was like Lent or something like that. Is
Yes, it's a Christian religious party.
right.
They still do. You still have the carnival mass. You still the religious events as well. And then it was also incorporated with some regional
Yes.
events. In Brazil, it was a time where people could dress up, people could set free from all the realities, sometimes the harsh realities of life. And it kept a very good tradition. It nowadays it's mostly a party of Brazilian culture, so it's like you have very long period over a week of 4th of July.
Right.
So it's mostly Brazilian music. We talk about the Brazilian regions, the history. I really recommend you guys to go listen and translate to some carnival sambas, the
Samba,
carnival songs. Yeah, they're very rich in content, in culture. So yeah, it's very So it's a festive 4th of July during a week and a half.
I think a way that, correct me if I'm wrong, but similar to how Mardi Gras is in Louisiana of the United States, it's this very sort of festive period. There's, parties and parades and stuff, but it's very representative of Brazil and the different cultures that are in Brazil. Is that kind of?
Yeah. But not every country does carnival, and not every city has carnival. I'm based in Brasilia, which is similar to Washington, BC. We didn't have carnivals, and ours is very small. Okay. But it still has this tradition of being community-based party. Mm-hmm. So you meet all of your neighbors. It's your commune that does that kept this tradition. But you also have the huge parties. It all depends of your vibe and what do you feel like doing on this period. It's fun.
Now, because this year it's February 16th, but this year it's been canceled. Has it ever been canceled before? Since it's kind of started?
Nope. Wow. This is the first time. Last year it happened, unfortunately. And this year it is the first time it's canceled. It is very sad. We're trying to cheer us up with having some polls or people taking selfies with their costumes from last year, trying to keep a cheerful vibe. Yes. Because now we do have the vaccine. Maybe in the distant future we'll be able to do it again. So let's not keep hope and happiness.
Yeah, keep it alive. So, when did Brazil introduce, like in Canada here in BC and throughout our country? We did a lockdown in March, I think 15th it was. Did Brazil? When did they sort of lock things down?
So it depends of the state. The state actually manages the public hospitals. So it depends. It depends of the mentality and the needs. Brazil was one of the first countries to keep some areas open because of the job market, and many people do still rely on jobs that are not usual or that do have their families to feed, and some jobs could not get closed. So Brazil was one of the first countries to point that on an international level. It got a lot of backlash. Some states closed a lot. It really depends. But we had everything. Right now, I would say it is an open place, but very restricted. So you have everything open, but very restricted with all the methods. We take the temperature, the COVID test, with all the precautions, and the exams are, if necessary, everything to make sure that the spread and people will not get ill. But it really depends immensely on the region. And the regions, of course, that had the least infrastructure and the least money least resources to fight with COVID did get behind. And we had some tragic situation in the Amazon state recently. The Amazonian state, because they didn't have enough oxygen. It's quite specific because the capital is in the middle of the Amazon. So it's quite difficult to get there. It's very specific state, very specific culture, lifestyle. It's very different. Even in terms of access, is not that easy. And they do have a lot of indigenous tribes as well that were living there. That sometimes were hard to reach because some want to get with contact with the government, some do not, and some do not want us to get close, and we do respect that. So very different lifestyles. And we did have some very hard times, but the government is doing everything they can to help the situation. And the people as well are learning from past mistakes that happened everywhere, where people do not comply or do not obey, right? Everyone thought it was just a flu. Right. And some people got surprised.
Well, and that just goes to show you the effects of globalization. I mean, this is COVID-19 started in China, in Wuhan, China, a place I had never heard of before because, of my own lack of knowledge. And before we know it, that was a world-known place, and it was affecting such indigenous and sort of dislocated places as the Amazon, right? Because there's many indigenous tribes there, but yet they were being impacted by something, way across the world in Wuhan, that it was hitting them. I mean, it just goes to show that I think in the 21st century, it's so difficult. We can't necessarily separate from the ecosystem that we've created. We are all kind of interrelated in such a new way. Yeah.
And we see now healthcare as a human right, which is good. We're going towards that. So I really hope that we're going to take the positive experience and the positive investments. Many countries are investing more on vaccine research, on and medicine, which is great. So let's try to make this very horrible experience into a good one that lasts for the future, that brings country together. We're living very similar experiences in different languages.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and really there is, again, this need that we do have to cooperate on a global scale here. I mean, our future is dependent on it.
Yeah, exactly. And we are dependent on the health of everyone around us. Mm-hmm. So it's really something that we cannot isolate from. We cannot have our own private and our own isolated even solutions, because we can get better or worse depending on the different mutations and the environments. So yeah.
That's actually a good point. I mean, it seems like the only way that one could have ever stopped the spread of this is just to completely shut their country down. But the way that markets work, we have to keep trade going and all this stuff. So the solution has to be that, again, we have to find, like you're saying, these shared solutions that work locally and nationally and around the world. So
shutting down countries was really a great solution. Mm-hmm. It really did have its very good results. It saved a lot of people, but also, we live in a world that we cannot shut down anymore. It's impossible. We exchange goods, knowledge, and everything. So we should open the gates on certain things, on certain topics that maybe are not as much profitable as health, right? As healthcare, but it is needed. And we, with a healthy global population, we can go beyond every problem and every solution.
I like that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're always moving forward, and we're incredibly adaptable.
Yeah.
Now, where you live, you're in Brasilia, right?
Yes.
When did you guys go into lockdown, or is that something that you did locally?
It's something that we did locally since March of last year, end of February, and which was a very good solution. Everything shut down. Everything went, if possible, online, which is a very difficult case because we do not produce all of technology in Brazil. We're still developing that, which means that not everybody had a cell phone or a computer.
Right.
Even the kids, most of the kids don't have a computer yet, and many places also, which is a very big country, some did not have internet at home, some do not have electricity, water, I mean everything. Some places are really developing, so we did see an increase of difficulty of access in terms of education and work as well. Yeah, we see that we need to put everyone on the same level when asking for the same standards.
Right. Now, another thing about Brazil is that Sao Paulo and Rio are quite dense cities. So, for example, I think you're telling me that Sao Paulo, like 20 million people live there.
Yeah. Sao Paulo has a bigger economy than Argentina. Just the state of Sao Paulo.
Wow.
I mean, it's huge, but also the way those cities are distributed, right? It was like New York, and New York was one of the most affected cities in the United States. So when you have a lot of people crowded in one place, I mean, it's very hard to manage.
And even just to put that into perspective, in Sao Paulo, 2/3, like the population of Sao Paulo is 2/3 of the entire population of Canada. I think there's like 30, I don't know exactly, but there's like 30 million or 45 million people that live in Canada. It's a very small number.
Yeah. In Brazil, we are 250 million.
Wow.
So it's a very different scale. But we do have one of the good things. We do have public health system since the 50s or 60s that is working quite well. Well, the ideas came from the 30s. And we do have some access of healthcare that are not only hospitals. Hospitals are meant for very severe illnesses. You go to the hospital only if you need it. Otherwise, you have the basic, what we call cardiologist, dentist, mother prenatal care, and you have some general doctors on what we call the health stations, where you can get your vaccines, which are smaller. In the United States, will be the size of a Planned Parenthood, which is the like small clinics that you could go for free if you needed anything. And this is where most people go. And we do have a system of very generic medicine and free distribution of medicine on various severe illnesses like diabetes, AIDS, that are established for a long time and that do work quite well. So this helped quite a lot the country. And we do have a very much established private healthcare as well.
That's like in Canada, yeah.
Yeah, but it got everything got full.
Okay. Because it almost sounded like by having these sort of different places that would have helped with hospitals being overburdened with people, right? Because that really was why we went into lockdown. I mean, it was for numerous reasons. In Canada, we didn't know exactly what was going on. But for two, we didn't want our hospitals to be inundated with people because we only had so many beds, which is what happened in New York. The hospitals were there was a surge in patients, which made it difficult to treat.
Well, in Brazil, this is quite usual. Some hospitals get really, really crowded. They do really need funds. And COVID, which I hope that it brought a different eye and perspective and look into the hospitals so more funds could emerge from it. I really hope that that now hospitals could be seen as they are, and a huge amount of appreciation and help for the public workers. So it really established the public healthcare as a foundation of a country.
Yeah, I mean, there are heroes here in Canada. What we would do, at least where I lived in Surrey, around 8 o'clock, we would ring bells and show our appreciation for workers in a way that, we couldn't see each other. We couldn't thank them because we're isolating in home, but we would ring the bells on our patios, and, as many people as could, they would do it. And it was kind of a sign of bringing us together. Now, where you were, was there anything like that as you were isolating, there was still this sense of togetherness?
I haven't heard it, but we do give a lot of money to people that need, all the associations, everyone that you knew that could be possibly hit by it or was in need of something. If you had some spare money or willing to help with anything, you would do it. Giving masks, just very community based, and of course, if you wanted to help the hospitals, you could do it, and people took on their own hands to what they could do.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So how many people where you are, how many people live there roughly?
Where, in Brasilia or
in
Brazil?
Brasilia? Yeah.
Okay. So Brazil, we have 250 million. In Brasilia, it's a small city. We have 2 million people in big region. So it's quite a small town. And the total cases of Brazil now is 297,000 today.
Okay. Now, so where you were, and my apologies for kind of asking this again, but was your community hit really hard, or was it the other communities that were deeply impacted by COVID?
Brasilia is quite special because it's the government city. So we have the parliament here, and the parliament has its deputies going in out of to their state. So you do have a lot of so you do have you do have a lot of people traveling, coming down and forth, and people leaving Brasilia on weekends. And these people, this actually led to COVID coming to Brasilia.
Oh, okay. Right. Because they're coming from all over the country. And
yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show you how quickly these viruses spread. Just one person traveling. And that's why travel has been such a key factor in this and in shutting travel down. Are there any bans on travel right now?
Not really, no, but there are a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of restrictions, and a lot of people don't do it. Right. The people who can, the people who have the possibility, even a lot of people make the choice not to travel, to stay at home, and to get out of the house only when necessary.
Here, where I'm in British Columbia, there's been almost like a stigmatization of people who travel. So if you're going somewhere, people are like, why are you traveling? And the government has recently put in place that if you go on a plane outside of the country and you come back, you have to stay in your home or you actually have to stay in a hotel for 2 weeks at your own expense.
Well, yes, in Brazil as well. We did have a lot of people getting to quarantine or quarantining themselves It was not mandatory, but as a precaution, people used to take it.
Now, how has it been for you in terms of the coronavirus? How have you handled it?
How have I handled it? Well, I was. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I just graduated. I was a student, so I finished my degree in lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very special.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And entering the job market when you
Yeah.
cannot go out of the house. So yeah, I hope that my degree will come by mail. So this is the situation. And what happened for me, I started working as well, and we did have many lockdown experiences. So this was quite interesting, and that's it. I started working from home.
I like this.
Tem cartãozinho aqui também.
And that's it. So my experience has been quite small, but I've been trying to help everyone that I knew with some ways, giving masks, helping with money, helping with the chores. Sometimes we have to help the children, and doing volunteering work. And I had done it, and otherwise just doing podcasts can help a lot of people.
Right.
Not feeling that lonely. And since Keep It Blue podcast is a podcast about a public contest, an entrance exam, and the entrance exam has been canceled, and all our plans, all our academic investments or put in pause. We had to try to keep motivated and to keep educated. So, and for me, it was really difficult to go from, like for everybody, from presenter work to staying at home, because we're not used to that. And yeah, not meeting people.
Right. Again, that adaptability. That was awesome, by the way. That was a wonderful tour of your house.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. It's okay. This is, hey, it's funny because I have a 17-month-old daughter, and I'm doing this right now out of my house. But before, she would just come in, like open the door, and it's like, oh, okay, guess the interview's over. So no, it's no problem at all. Now, since COVID's happened, we've had to do a lot of Amazon stuff. So like Amazon is just taking over. Do you guys have like an Amazon or something like that down there?
Yeah.
Amazon, the delivery company, not the rainforest, of course.
Well, I mean, both are related.
Right.
Here it really depends on the city and how it is organized in terms of the street, in terms of the access. Sometimes you could, sometimes you could not. Many people actually in Brazil did not have a bank account before. So now it's starting to get, everyone is starting to get to credit card and digital money. In terms of, so you have that. And in terms of delivering things, it started a lot to work with local deliveries. Buying from the internet, I think it was most a generational thing. People under 30 tend to buy more online than our parents.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, we do like shopping online. So it continued. And now it's really starting to digitalize a lot. Everything is becoming digital.
You know, you just made me think about something I haven't thought about, which is it's quite easy to do that because I'm like, I stumble and fumble through life. But anyways, you were talking about all these people getting credit cards and opening up bank accounts for the first time. I mean, it must be somewhere in like the millions.
Yeah. And many people that did not have cell phones.
Right.
I'm not talking only about adults, but about kids as well, because many of them did not have computers. sometimes electricity or water in their houses. And it is not only a third world problem, but a first world as well. So
Of
everyone
course.
got impacted. They could not do the distance work since they did not have the same standards. So now I hope we're gonna get past that. And the bank account, the bank account, it really depends on the culture of the country. Germany is also a country that relies a lot on cash. In Brazil, we do like it because of the practicity, and also it can help to lower the corruption level by a huge amount, because we can have a lot more control on the money that comes and goes, and we do have a precise quantity and
data.
So corruption still exists in Brazil, but it's getting lower by the day, and technology is helping. And for huge amount.
I didn't even want, once again, I didn't think about that, because what I was thinking of is, as more people get credit cards, well, managing a credit card is quite a balance, right? Because if everybody gets credit and then they don't pay it off, that could be that's a pretty big risk, I guess you could say. But I imagine that the credit companies, they do their work.
It really depends of the culture. For example, when I was living in France, that has a huge culture of debit-only cards. So if you did not have anything on your account, you could not spend. Here in Brazil, it depends on your salary. You have to have an income to have a bank account. So it depends on your income. Sometimes you can, sometimes if you want it too, because many people do not want to have credit, and they do not choose to have credit cards. But what's important is really digital money. Digital money, yes, everywhere.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've said it before, but digital money, the actual physical money, the amount of digital money in the world, the amount of physical money in the world does not exist relative to the amount of digital money. Like if Jeff Bezos was like, okay, I want all of my money withdrawn in my hand, you couldn't do that. It would actually like mess up the whole system.
Yeah. And now it's becoming so scarce in Brazil that they give you prices if you give them pennies and banknotes. It's really a rarity right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you mentioned the show Keep It Blue, and how it's helping to prepare people for the diplomatic tests in Brazil. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're a bunch of students that actually stood for the Brazilian diplomatic exam, and which contains a lot of history, politics, geography. We have 4 languages on the exam. We have Portuguese, English, French, and Spanish that we have to write quite well. And it's all online right now. The preparation does not exist physically, and it did not before the pandemic. So the podcast is a way to getting to know my peers, to getting to talk with professionals, to getting to meet your friends, and to have fun, because it's a lot of work. We do have over 6,000 participants for 15 spots, to keep positive vision on the very different tests, and it's a test that not many people take it. So it's rare to find someone in your city or in your state sometimes. So it's a good way to get to know people that have the same experience as you, and the podosphere as well. The podcast community is just incredible. We meet so many great people like you, and we get to know other realities and talk with different people. So I entered in it because I wanted to study. So it was a way for me to present while I was working on the topics. And I started doing interviews, and diplomats sometimes participate, which is a great way, right? Diplomacy starts with a dialogue and negotiation. So
Right.
why not start it with a podcast?
Well, that's one way to do it. Yeah. And again, I think that that moves into what has helped keep you positive during this pandemic is you've given yourself something to do that's, you've felt productive, right? Because a lot of us were stuck at home and we're like, oh man, twiddling our thumbs, now what, right? And you've kind of found something that you can do that you feel like you're giving back.
Yes, we're giving back because people can listen and do not feel alone anymore, or just know that many people are going through the same way we are. Most of us are working. We're students part time. We're doing as we can. Many of us have a family. It's quite a challenge because it takes up to 4 to 5 years. Sometimes people take 10 years to pass this exam.
Wow.
So it's a very long term. Very long exam and a very long preparation that is even longer, and we need something to keep up. And I knew I couldn't do it by myself, close or in a library, and sometimes we need the help of other people. I've started in 2019. Actually, I started in July, so before the pandemic. But when the pandemic reached, I hope it helped a lot of people. It did certainly help me to keep sane, to keep socialize with people, and to discover a lot of things as well. A lot of how other people see things, how other people explain what is the job, what are the activities. So yeah, it's a great way to. It's a great academic tool.
Well, that's awesome. Now, if you were a diplomat, where would you be at, like a Brazilian embassy, or would you be going internationally as a diplomat for Brazil, or what does that look like?
Yeah. This is the job. We get to go to embassies and consulate.
Mhm.
So it's a general exam, and once you get in, you have formations, and you can go from different departments. So it's up to you, up to your interest, up to your qualifications, up to your interest. What is good for the Brazilian system is very renowned in the whole world. It's a very equal system because people get to go to very good countries and countries that are less developed. So everyone has a very wild experience, and it's very open. We do have a lot of exchange students as well in our program, always keeping an open mind and learning about other cultures. It's very important for Brazil, and showing as well. So it's a positive place.
That's awesome. So where would you go if you were a diplomat? Like, what country would you like to serve Brazil?
I'd love to go to Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that'd
it's
be
so
cool.
different. We do have a lot of Japanese influence here in Brazil, mostly in the São Paulo region. It's very different. We're completely opposites, but it's the best. We love everything that is different, everything that is opposite. We have so much to learn from
Right.
other cultures, and Japanese. Yeah, I like it because of the not only the Japanese culture, but the Brazilian influence, or the Brazilian relationships with Japan also are quite funny. Yeah.
Well, and isn't that the truth? I mean, I was speaking to somebody about this, but as we, as we go forward in sort of human history, I guess, we are becoming a fusion. We're integrating so many parts of different cultures and being enriched by it. I mean, because everybody has something to share. And if we just take time to listen and to, learn to understand, we can get something out of it. I mean, there's
Yes.
places in the Amazon that, there, for all we know, there could be some rare botanical there that could be the cure to cancer, right?
Yes.
So,
We
now,
always keep an open mindset, but Brazil is also a very very country that has a huge amount of immigration. So we always had since the beginning. It started with the immigration of the Portuguese.
yes.
well, the first explorers, and then the king. So, and also we had open gates for a long time. So we do have a lot of foreign immigration, and always an open mind to the cultures.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure there's like a pretty big German population that moved there like from the 19th century, like the
Yes,
1800s. German,
yes,
Italian.
German, French,
Yep.
Dutch in the north, French and Dutch in the north. You have the Japanese near Sao Paulo,
Wow.
Lebanese, huge amount of Lebanese.
Really?
Yeah, Lebanese, Syrian, and you can find it all in the Brazilian diplomatic corps as well,
Okay.
and indigenous people. So Brazilian can be, anyone could be, and you could see it, and people are very keep very close to their state as well, which is great, because we get not only to meet the world, but also to know the realities of our country.
That's a great point. I mean, Canada's kind of the same. I mean, one thing I've noticed is the more I talk to people from all over the world, I see, sure, yeah, the differences, but also the similarities. And Canada, one thing that we sort of pride ourselves on is our mosaic of, we like to bring in all different cultures. Sometimes for better, for worse, I mean, nothing is perfect, of course. And I don't want to be romanticize anything, but there is this idea of fusion again. And it sounds like that's kind of similar to Brazil. Is there's the national and then there's the local.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, one question, do you know much about the Amazon? Like, have you ever been to the Amazon?
Yes, I've traveled there 2 times.
Yeah.
Loved it. It's definitely very different. It's a very different climate, a different way of life. They have a different mythology, different people. I loved it. It was one of the capitals of Brazil during the rubber era,
Right.
because the history of Brazil is separated into the markets, which was gold, sugar, rubber in the north. They do have awesome history, awesome nature. Yes, I really recommend everyone that has the opportunity to go. And it is really its ecosystem, and we should get to know it better. It's awesome.
So
Yeah.
now, when I was studying Latin American history, and again, my knowledge is so sparse, but deforestation was a really big issue in the Amazon. Is that something that they're trying to figure out, or what's sort of the current state on that in the Amazon?
First, thank you for interesting yourself into Latin and Latin history, and the North and South America as well, which is a very interesting region of the world. It's a very interesting continent, and we get to see and recognize all the aspects of the countries, their history, their relationships. In terms of the Amazon, you first have to know that it's not only Brazil. Brazil has
Yes.
a bigger part.
Yes.
But you have Brazil, Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia. You have Bolivia as well. So we have very different and sovereign states having the same region. First, that. So this is a big clue. You have a lot of activities that, for good or for worse, that happened there. You have very distinct, sometimes native communities that some went to get in touch and get access to what we have, right? Hospitals, schools, and everything, and some that do not want that. So we try to respect, we try to reach when they need that. So first, it's just for the start. So it's quite difficult by thinking that it has never been only one region, only one state.
Yeah.
And Brazil is really big. It's quite difficult to have a very precise insight of what's happening on the borders. Even more in the Amazonian region, which is very hard to build infrastructure because it doesn't stand much. So it's quite delicate in terms of deforestation. It has been a topic since Brazil was existed, because Brazil came from the pau Brazil tree.
Right.
That actually they used to sell right to Europe, and it's still the national system. This is why Brazil was named Brazil, because of a tree.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Wow.
deforestation was a topic since then.
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to use this land that they discovered for? They didn't know there was gold. They didn't know there were minerals. They didn't know about the gas in some regions, but they knew about the tree. And the market started there. And Brazil was a country that was colonized until the 900s, like the 20th century. You cannot have universities, you cannot have schools, independent states. So everything was under huge scrutiny. And this meant that the market was only a commodities market since the beginning.
Resources, and
Yeah, sugarcane and everything like that. And this is based on deforestation. So this was the topic since the existence of the country. How it was going to survive if we could not have manufacturers. And still it's going towards industrializations and other markets, manufacturing, so we can have other markets and reduce our deforestation. It is a very big, and it is actually one of the most sensitive topics in presidential elections.
Right.
So they have to present what they're going to do, what are their plans, what is their vision, each presidential candidate, about the Amazon and how to keep. We have a very strong ecological system of laws and institutions, one of the biggest and the most developed in the world. Brazil does find that important, but and the deforestation is still there. We were trying to solve this problem, to reduce it, but it's quite complex because Brazil exportations are mostly on soybean, and soybean takes a lot of space, takes a lot of water, takes a lot of resources. You cannot go one without the others. We try to take other regions, try to reduce it, have more control.
And this global pressure to kind of do the right thing, right? Countries all over say, "Oh, you got to do this," but we need to export things to economically survive.
Yeah, this is the big question, because the region lives mostly from that. This is one of the biggest agricultural resources from that region. And how are you going to solve that? We're trying to bring other solutions, other industries. The service and the tourism industry is quite big in the Amazon region. People do have a very civic obligation to keep the nature. Everyone that goes to a park ever in Brazil takes the trash out. We do this from school. We do have a very strong ecological sense. When we hear about Brazilian mythology and Brazilian culture, it's very nature related, the forces of nature. Either it is from the Afro influence in Brazil, or the regional myths. They're all from animals. They are from nature. So it is a huge, huge, huge topic in Brazil, and we're trying to. Brazil is trying its best to reduce it, to control it, to not take the deforestation, to keep control of the fires and of the accidents that may happen, while still having economic development. It's a big topic.
It's like you say, it's trying to find the perfect solution, because as we know, the Amazon is referred to as the lungs of the earth because of the amount of oxygen that that rainforest produces. But at the same time, due to the way that the global markets work, the global financial system, you have to have a way of contributing so that you can be a part in it. So it's learning that balance, right?
Yeah, learning how to negotiate, how to, I don't know, make different, how to diversify the economy, how to open markets to other people, how to digitalize the market, right, with many different options. But it is $1 million question.
Yeah, and it's not. First of all, it's not fair for me to say, Brazil. This is a global concern. Every country has to ask this question of how do we balance the environment with the economic system that we're in. Canada has to ask that too, because deforestation is huge here. The level of gas mining and all these things, diamonds, right? Huge ecological degradation. So we all have a role to play in being stewards of the earth, not just Brazil. Yeah.
So yeah, Brazil has been a very worldwide scene event, rightly so, that deserves a very good much of attention, national and international. But yeah, it is still a big question how we going to provide for everyone, how are we going to help to keep the jobs there while not affecting nature. So yeah, we're still looking for solutions.
Well, Amanda, I'm just looking at the time and we're already at 51 minutes. So I have truly appreciated your time, and man, I would love to speak to you again.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Just tell me when you're available next time, so we can set up a new meeting. No problem.
Because I feel like we're just getting started. So.
Oh yeah, and I'm learning the topics since I'm studying, so I'm learning all over again in a deep way, and having new visions, talking with people. It's just it's awesome. Of course.
Well, keep up the great work, and thank you once again.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.